ordinarily...
Oh no!
Can you go away?
Go away. Go away.
This is annoying man.
Thank Yoli and Arnda for organising this weekend in Klosters, for planning it and for laying it all out in such detail, with one exception of stating what everything would cost and what exactly Arnda would be paying for. Although, as it turns out, he is obviously being extremely generous, and today was one of the best days skiing I've had in my life. Miller, who guided us very well until the end, and just wonderful to get everybody together away from hustle and bustle and children. And so I would like to propose the first toast to, let's say, Yoli. Let's say Yoli. Beautiful Yoli.
My pleasure, my God.
So,
Well done.
it is, of course, the occasion, the very last day of Arnda's
Well said.
fourth decade. Hey, Royal, shall I sit down? And Yoli has asked me to say a few words. I don't quite know why she would ask me, given that she speaks better English than anybody else around this table. My theory is that she wants to get some stuff out there and blame me for it, rather than actually confronting her husband directly. But if that's how she wants to play it, that's fine by me. When I asked, so we had a little chat, and she downloaded some bullet points, and it was sort of lovely, generous, funny, etc., etc. Said, there's really nothing bad I can say about him as a husband. And then there was a short pause, and then she launched into what can only be described as a tirade of things that were bad about her husband. I don't want to go through all of them, and some of them are a little graphic and personal, but they all did sort of...
I do regret already I've asked you.
They coalesced into a sort of a general idea that whilst Arnda can be very accommodating, most of the time he can also be extremely stubborn about certain things. For example, there is a story, and I think there's more to this story than Yoli let on about, Richard and Angela's wedding present to them both, some very uncomfortable dining room chairs that has become a sort of an on-running source of dispute between Arnda and Yoli. I think this is really what she wants to. Basically wants to get rid of the chairs. She won't bang on. She won't stop banging on about it. Nobody sits on them, but Arnda's made his mind up that they have to stay, so they're staying. So I said it now. You can pick that up with Arnda afterwards. But the point being that whenever Arnda makes a decision, comes to a decision, he sticks to it and he follows it through 100%. Very reliable, very wholehearted. And this has become the theme of my speech, wholehearted Arnda. In a positive sense, or stubborn Arnda in a negative sense. We're halfway through page 1. Those who know him well will know that I'm delivering this to camera. Hi, Annie.
We did say no more than 10 minutes.
Obviously, we did. I'll be brief. Obviously, snoring, sneezing, and sweating, the 3 S's, are one evidence of Arnda doing everything with great gusto. So anyway, I sent out a little email to some of Arnda's friends saying come back with some anecdotes of stubborn Arnda, and Adam sent a wonderful reply which I'm going to quote in full. It says, with apologies to Richard Curtis, I'm going to do a Scottish accent here. It's from an English film, Christian and Jeanette, called 4 Weddings and a Funeral. It says, in order to prepare this speech, I'm not going to do the Scottish accent. In order to know, it's the wrong Scottish accent. In order to prepare this speech, I rang a few people to get a general picture of how Arnda was regarded by those who met him. Secretive seems to have been the word. People most connected with him, selfish and ungrateful, also rang a lot of bells. So very secretive, selfish and ungrateful seems to have been a stranger's viewpoint. Adam says he is glad that he's got that out there because he did want to include it in your wedding day speech. But he felt that might be going a bit too far. He says, I joke of course, but also try and work in the shit under nose look you get when anything is said, proffered or mooted that doesn't pass muster with Arnda. So you may well get it during your speech. So I have some examples of Arnda's wholeheartedness / stubbornness, and that is the end of page 1.
Of how many?
I'm very sorry. Okay, it's very funny in English. So the first subheading that I have is Arnda is wholeheartedly committed to physical excellence.
Physical exercise.
But yeah, well, no, it is. Yoli recounted a story about in October 2012, Arnda decided to run a half marathon. When the whole hog started training for it, one day came back from running in the midsummer heat, sunburned, dehydrated, and pretty much had to be and very sweaty, and had to be sort of scraped off the sofa afterwards. And then, of course, there was 15 centimetres of snow on the day the half marathon actually took place. So well done, Arnda, in for a penny. And also, we'll all recall his shoulder injuries. Today has been a day for shoulder injuries, but Arnda decided to take up rugby again in his third year at Newcastle. Was on the pitch for 2 to 3 minutes before a crunching tackle. Buckley takes up the story in an email. I can provide some background on the rugby match as I was there egging him on to play for the Lawyers. It was a dislocation rather than a break. I would like to say a heroic try-saving tackle, but I saw an innocuous collision. Right, he turned white as a ghost. He was somewhat annoyed that I chose to continue playing and not chauffeur him to hospital. The shoulder was, of course, re-dislocated that summer after an outrageous trip tackle by Caker at Kickabout at Millie's parents' house. And then, as I recall it, it was then re-broken a few years later, following me down an off-piste couloir. That was the knee. Yeah. Okay, so that's another injury. So we had the knee. Then we have the back that spasmed when we were going to go and climb Mont Blanc.
Yes.
Generally, a picture's emerging of someone who'd like to be physically excellent, but is not. So we have a thing. In order for Arnda, I don't know if you know about your birthday present. Do you know about your birthday present yet? So all of us here, with the exception of the boot-giving Swiss contingent, and in fact those who weren't here, the Carters, the Fosters, the Clarks, the Gedders and the Wells, have all plugged together to buy you a whiff-waff table.
Oh, no way.
For your ballroom. Yoli's idea at the Manor. Is that what we call it?
It's already at the Manor.
It's already at the Manor. Yeah,
it was delivered on Wednesday.
and also, because I filled in an after-sales survey with tabletennistable.co.uk, they sent me a DVD which has 45 stretching exercises. And sort of discipline. So there you go, that's it for now. And we look forward to round the table whiff-waff. And yeah, so there you go. Committed to physical excellence. I feel like I'm losing the audience. So, Arnda is, of course, also very committed to his work. He is dedicated to succeeding in business on his own terms and having nothing to do with potatoes, I think is fair to say. He's the kind of guy who seals €1 billion deals before breakfast, and obviously we don't know where he's going from here on in, but we are sure he will do an amazing job. Anything to avoid the fate of being forever tagged the gentleman farmer. So we shall call him henceforth the Gentleman International Sports Media Rights Sales Executive. For now, whatever that may be. On a stubborn level, I've heard that he hasn't committed to learning Swiss German, although, to be fair, why would you? And instead he went for the shouting loudly in English approach. Yoli's told me that he did, however, wholeheartedly commit to trying to engage with his new Swiss friends and colleagues. And apparently, in the months after returning to Switzerland, hosted the number I've been given as 15 dinner parties to welcome the community to him, and that was very nice because they got invited back 0 times by any of those people.
That's true.
Which was very sweet. I imagine, is that a Swiss thing? Or it's right?
Yeah,
they invited them back.
No, he's sweating a lot.
Oh, is this
I want him in the house.
You don't want him spoiling the leather?
No.
Exactly. No, Yoli was everywhere. Yoli was invited everywhere.
Arnda was babysitting. We all know, we're all here, obviously, because he's such a committed and wholehearted friend. I'm not going to get emotional. Ollie today recounted a moment in your second term at Eton where Ollie decided to light a fire in his boarding house. 5 fire engines were called, scraping along the Lamborghinis parked outside. These were Arnda's cars. And Arnda, for some very noble but actually, sort of quite unexplained reason, decided to share the blame with Ollie. And so basically, if you need to pin anything on anyone, Ander will take it for you, which is very good of him. So anyway, I'm sure we can all remember our individual moments when Ander has really been there for us in a crisis, even if that crisis is just needing someone to join him in the 11 a.m. hot chocolate break on a skiing holiday from Nige. Adam chimes in again here. This is the second half of his email. On a more positive note, mention the fact that he laughs so hard and so genuinely that a little bit of pee comes out. He didn't say whether he didn't say whether it came out from you or from
him.
Oh, from Adam.
Yeah.
Oh right, I see. And he makes you feel like the funniest man alive, which he certainly does. That he's generous to a fault, and also he says, when Ander says he likes radishes, he doesn't really. He uses them as a vehicle for mayonnaise. It's the mayonnaise he really likes.
Random fact.
But it is also true. So also Yoli went into great depth to explain what a committed father Ander is. A very dedicated dad. Even to the point of, in fact, sort of changing jobs because he's travelling so much and not seeing his kids. He now has more air miles than any Swiss traveller anywhere. As I understand it, he can travel anywhere within Switzerland for free for the rest of his life, which is very useful. Yoli has an interesting take on this. She says, she talks about Ander being a man with a passionate desire to make up for lost time. She suggested, in fact, that he had quite a deprived childhood. That was Yoli's word, and that may come as a surprise to those of you who've seen the enormous house that he grew up in, and the doting bestowed on little Lord Fauntleroy by his parents. However, he was never allowed out as a young, wheezy, invalided child. He was in fact not allowed to go to birthday parties, it seems is the story, to the extent that when Louis was invited to his first birthday party, it was Ander who caught chicken pox at the age of 34. You really need to work on the immunity, exactly. He is the poster boy for the modern father, always packing the weekends with skiing and tennis, doing too much, in fact, Yoli suggested. But yes, exactly. Or if Yoli's like, well, anyway, I was about to insult my wife there. I'll move over that for the sake of time. Ander has never made a difference between Oliver and his own children. He beats them all with equal ferocity. And but also, seriously, folks, if Oliver actually, has any problems or issues, he will now call Ander before his own dad, which is a great testament. No, I have no joke around that comment. Seems to be true. On a stubborn level, the one thing he will not allow his children is a pet. Reference earlier wheeziness, allergies, etc. Yoli says, ironic that a farmer's son married to a farmer's daughter is terrible with animals. The only pet he's ever had was a tortoise called Ptolemy. Yoli originally said the tortoise was called Turtle, which I found quite funny. But the tortoise called Ptolemy was the world's worst pet, and in fact you were very happy when he died.
In his first year.
So pet rearing, not a success. Ander is also, we are drawing to an end now, but he's a very committed husband. This is not really sort of the territory that I, can explore in too much detail. But it is crazy for all to see, it's clear for all to see how crazy Ander and Yoli are for each other. What a lovely couple they make. And here. Annie Del Mar adds an interesting little anecdote on this subject, specific to the theme of Ander being a very committed and well-scheduled lover.
Scheduled lover.
Ander so stubbornly and wholeheartedly in love with his wife that he saw fit during a New Year's Eve party in 2011-12 Suffolk to go off and have a quick shag just after we'd all seen in New Year. 10 minutes later they returned announcing their great accomplishment. I think that's what's called seeing the new year in with a bang. So, very good.
We had sex between courses, but it was 9 courses.
9 courses of
courses.
Alex.
Sex after course 3.
Yeah, we had sex between, but it was
That's
9
called
courses.
intercourse.
Intercourse.
Thank I asked him for some anecdotes. He provided none. We all, of course, remember the curious incident of the VW in the ha-ha in the night time. But no more needs to be said about that. Conclusion. So there it is. Stubbornly committed Ander, entering his 5th decade. Committed to physical excellence. Still chuckles. Yeah, wheeziness. Committed wheeze. Committed professional, committed to his friends, his family, his children and his wife. And I've written 2 last paragraphs which made me quite emotional while I was writing. They're probably going to fall flat, but if you can imagine sort of swelling music, emotional, sort of reaching an emotional crescendo over this bit. So as we all reach, this is when I sort of open it up, take it away from on there.
You're over 15 minutes
just look
now.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay, look at yourselves here. As we all reach this midpoint in our lives, let's follow Anders' example. Let's not grow fat. Let's not grow fat and lazy and complacent. Let's not think we're on the downhill stretch now, taking a gentle blue run to life's great après-ski party. Let's be committed. I feel like Ed Miliband. Let's be committed. Let's be stubborn about making the most of our life and whatever time we have remaining. So let's take on the blacks and the reds, and if we break our shoulder, then Ander knows the guide to gate. So there it is.
Well done.
So for Ander, to this 40 and the next 40 and the 40 years after that, I would like to propose a toast, something we saw on a poster today, advert for, what's the beer called? Corona?
Calendar.
Tourlish Anders. Translated as, of course, different.
Yeah.
Tourlish Anders. Happy birthday.
Of course, different. I think there's of course other.
Of course, other.
things.
Of course there are other things in
Well
there.
done,
Anyway.
Thank you, I love.
Well done, Tom.
Cheers.
Good
Thanks.
for you.
Cheers.
Well done, Tommy.
Well done, Alex.
Well done, Tommy.
Cheers.
Brilliant.